Today we're going to kind of discuss the Panasonic AC30 that we have available here at Community Access for you guys to take out. Basically, it's this camera here. It will come with, when you get the case, it'll come with a power cord. And the power cord, you're going to plug into the side. There's a little panel here. Over here, there's a little spot for it to plug into. And then you plug it into the wall. When you do that, it will show up. If you want to go to the camera screen there. Not that one. There we go. Up there where I don't have enough cable to show you, but up where you see the little battery bar there next to where the red box is, it says AI or IA. There'll be a little lightning bolt, and that'll indicate that the battery itself is charging. There's a battery that comes with it. Kind of see on the back of the camera here. Maybe, there we go. Oh. That generally stays on the camera. So you don't have to do anything other than the fact that we do not charge these cameras. So when you get it, you want to make sure that you're going to, charge it before you take it out to do whatever you want to do. So also included, or not included, I should say, we have an SD card. That's what they shoot on. And you can pick these up anywhere at Walmart. You can get them on Amazon. They're fairly cheap. On the side of the camera here, there's a little door that flips out. And there's a slot here. It's indicated by number 1. And we'll see, we'll flip that guy upside down there. It only goes in one way, so you don't have to worry about putting it in wrong. Press it in.
Does it matter? Can I ask a question? Does it matter which slot you put it in? Like the other day, I had to, unload content from it, and I put it in the bottom slot. Does it matter?
On these, it is set up so that the first one records, and then the second one, if you have a second card, it will, if you run out on the first card, it'll, well, it's not a backup, it'll take over.
Got it.
So if your first card fills up, then it'll automatically start recording on the second card.
Okay.
We can change that, but that's the general rule. We just leave these like that. So
put in the top one.
That first slot is where you want to put in the card.
Thank you.
Yep. So just kind of close that door there. The recording settings. First, I'll show you a couple other. Well, yeah, we'll get in the recording settings, I guess, here. If you see on the screen there, up in the middle left there, it says 1080, and directly below it, there's 2997. Those are generally the settings that we use at Community Access, so that's how the cameras are set up. So you won't have to, and we record in the MP4 format. So that's basically how they're always set up. If you need something different than that, talk with us and we can kind of follow you through there. But that's the standard recording for us here. I'll kind of go through a couple other features here with the camera, just to kind of highlight it, and then we'll get into some other details with a microphone and a light and whatnot. So there is an LCD screen here on the side of the camera. If you pull that out, kind of flip it, you'll be able to, you won't have to rely on the viewfinder. Some people forget that we have that. And there's a lens cap on the front here. Just kind of pinches, pops off. Kind of leave that off for now. And then there's also on the front here, right at the very top there, there's actually a light on the camera itself. And it works fairly well. There's just a little switch there on and off. That's kind of a neat little feature. And it also comes with 2 little covers here. If you want to, if the light is maybe too bright or whatever, those just pop on the front, and it kind of knocks it down a little bit. if you want to do, if you need a little more amber color for skin tone or something like that, you can use the amber one. So those are available. Let me take this power cord off here a second. He's in the way. He doesn't need to be on there anyhow. So on this side, let's see here, start here. So on this side, this is the side that you would be looking at. This is where you would plug in your external mic, a wireless mic. I'll show you that here in a second. And then your zoom controls are right here. Okay. There's also some zoom controls on the top of the camera. So it just kind of depends on what angle you're shooting at or how you're shooting. You can either use one of those. And there's two record buttons. There's a little red button at the top of the camera there. And on the back side, right down there, you can see that. That's also your on-off switch. So that you kind of just push, there's a little white button there. And you kind of push that in and then just kind of flip it. And then flip it down the other way and it will turn on. So I think that's pretty much the kind of the features, as far as the camera goes. We do offer wireless mics here. They come in these cases. And so, let's see. So these are the Asden Pro XDs. The one side has a little shoe on it there. That will actually, you can attach that. It's just kind of, it's kind of maybe not easiest to see there. So I kind of step out of the way and it'll actually slide in. There's a little shoe and you just kind of slide that in, and then there's a little, kind of tightens it down. You just kind of turn it like you would a screw and it'll stay on the top there. And then you're going to take the other end here, your cable, and you're going to plug it into that little plug there, that little port that I showed you. And then in order to turn these on the one side, and this is probably going to be very hard to see because it's kind of embedded in the rubber, there's actually a little, I don't know, it's like a half circle with a line on it on the one side. You just kind of press and hold it, and you'll get a couple green lights that you can kind of see them there. They're kind of flashing. And then you're going to kind of do the same thing over here on this side. This is your mic. And let's see if I can, sometimes I had to wear black today. It's kind of down here in the corner. Just kind of press and hold that. And again, you can kind of see those green lights light up. And as long as they're not flashing on either side, it means that you're connected. And then in the, if you, Tom, if you can just bring up the LCD screen or the other camera, there we go. What you'll notice, the way these cameras are set up, let me turn this guy off for a second here. So if I turn it off, which it won't turn off, come on. There we go. So if I turn it off right now, down in the lower left-hand corner, you kind of see some like white square boxes that are kind of bouncing around. It says CH1, CH2. Those are your audio channels. You have two audio channels there. And the bottom one, where it says channel 2, that is the microphone that is actually attached to the camera. So you'll always have that. Now, if you're doing an interview, having somebody, you want a little cleaner sound, that's why you would take out the wireless mic. And when I turn this on and everything's hooked up correctly, you'll notice that there's another line that pops up. That kind of indicates that you have audio coming in through the wireless mic. There is a headphone jack on the side of the camera here. There we go. On one side here, there's a little, there's a headphone jack there. So I always recommend getting yourself a set of headphones, and you can plug it in to make sure that your wireless mic is working correctly. We do offer, you know, external mics. If you want to do like a boom mic or an XLR cable or something along that lines, if you need to come out of an audio board, we do have those available. I don't have them right here to show you, but that is definitely something that we can, you know, loan you guys. All right, so that kind of takes care of the basics on the camera and the mic. I do want, before I go into the tripod here, I do want to mention that if we can bring the screen back up there, Tom, good. If you notice there up in the upper right-hand corner, there is that, it's a red box that says IA. There's a switch on the camera. Basically right now the camera is fully automatic. So it'll control your brightness, your focus, your color, your white balance, all of that sort of thing. And you don't have to do anything. So that's kind of generally for, you know, 90–95% of things, it will work out well. Basically the switch for that, if we come over here, there's a switch on the bottom of the camera here, and it says IA on the one side, and it says manual or MANU. And if that switch is on or flipped over to the IA side, then everything, like I said, will be automatic. If we flip it over to the manual, then what you're going to find is you're going to have a little bit more control over the camera itself. Okay, and you know, there's some different features here that I can kind of point out. There's a button here on the side that is a gain, which will allow you to adjust your brightness. Let's see here. Which ring are we on here? It's a little tricky. So it does take a little bit of practice. Tom, if you want to come back to the screen there. There we go. So when I press, there's a panel of buttons down at the bottom of the camera there. The one is gain, and then there's a little there's a little dial. There's a little dial on the side there. You press it in, and if you notice there where it says it's got the 9 and it's got the dB and it's in orange, as I roll that dial, it kind of brightens up the camera. So that kind of gives you a little more control over your brightness so that the camera's not doing everything automatically. And then there's another button down along the panel there that is the shutter. And same thing, when I press that, you'll notice that that kind of changes things. It helps with a little bit of clarity. It also helps with brightness. And then the third button down there is a white balance. And when you press that, you'll see that there's a letter A with the CH. And what you would generally do is you'd find something white, you'd zoom all the way in, and then you'd press and hold that white balance button, and then it'll change to the color that, you know, is pretty close to, you know, what you're looking at or what you're shooting. So, Tom, if you just want to come back to the camera, there we go. So I can you can kind of see those. This is the panel of button down here that I was kind of referenced to there. The gain is here. There's white balance, and then there's a shutter button, and then the IA or the manual feature over there. So that gives you a little more control over the cameras and the settings and whatnot. And if you think that you're going to need those, you know, we can go into a little more detail when you pick up the camera. But generally speaking, most people can figure out the, you know, their shoots work very well with the automatic. So, all right, so we're going to get into the tripod here and how you're going to mount the camera and whatnot. So over here, this is the tripod that we have here. There's an arm here. I'm going to turn this around here. When you loosen this guy up, generally when you get it, the arm will be down. You loosen that up, kind of flip that up to where you need it, and then just tighten the screw there. The legs here, I'll just kind of show you. We'll try, there we go, that's better. They have these locks, kind of flip these, and you can make it whatever height you need it for your shoot. And then one other feature here. So in here, there's a little green thing. That is actually going to be, allows you to balance the camera so that it's not all, you know, lopsided and tilted weird ways or whatever the case is. And now at the bottom of the tripod, if you unscrew this here, it will allow you to kind of move and kind of rotate that head a little bit. And then I know you can't see this right now, but it's basically a level. It is a level, not basically, but it is a level. Center that up, and then your shots will be level and not all crooked. So in order to put the camera onto the tripod here, I'm going to show you the back side here. This is the back side of the camera. This would be the side that you're facing when you put it on. And on this side, there is a red button. You're going to have to push that in. And on the bottom of the camera, there's a plate here that's attached to the camera. You're going to take this guy. You're going to kind of line it up. And there are actually arrows on the tripod. And I thought there was one. It might not be on that plate, but there's definitely on the tripod to show you which direction that this should be going in. So you kind of line that up. Doing it backwards here. And then you slide, and you're going to hear a click. Once you hear that click, on this side, there's a little locking screw that you're going to kind of turn, and it's going to tighten, and then it'll allow the camera not to move around on the tripod head. If you don't lock that, what's going to happen is you're going to get this, and it can actually slide back and forth. So you're going to want to make sure that that is locked into place. Let me just take this off. All right, and then one other thing we actually have these portable light kits. So I mentioned earlier that there's a light on the front end of the camera here that works, you know, fairly well. But if you're looking to light up something a little bit more, or that light's not adequate, we actually have these portable light kits. On the back side here, there's a couple of knobs. First, there's the button here that turns it on. There's two little lines. You press that down. That will turn the light on. And then the knobs on the back here kind of controls the one that controls the intensity or how bright it is, and the other one here controls the color. So you do have a little bit of control over, as I mentioned before, we have these little things that will pop on the front end of the light on the camera. However, if you do have a little bit of control over the light color or the temperature on these lights as well. So the only thing that if you want to get one of these light kits out, if you're using a wireless mic, there's really only one place to put the light on, and that's where we put the mic on here. So what I generally tell people is to just take the mic. You can kind of stick it down there in the, there's a little grip handle, assuming that you're not hand holding it, assuming you're using a tripod. If not, we can kind of come up with something else to kind of attach that. But that's usually where I say just kind of put that on. And then it's the same thing as with the wireless mic. There's a little shoe here that kind of just line that up. Just keep turning, kind of like you would be putting in a screw. And if you can see that here, there's on the back side, there's another little knob here that kind of needs to be tightened down to kind of hold it into place. And then you have a light, you know, more efficient light on the top of your camera there.
I have
We
a
do
question
also
about
have,
that light. I'm sorry.
oh, that's okay.
Is it okay to interrupt with questions?
That's fine, yeah.
When would you recommend, and generally, that we would want to use a stronger light like that? In a darker room? I don't know.
If you have a lot of light in your room, and you're just trying to get a little bit of light on somebody's face, then the light that's on the camera itself probably will work fine. But if you're in a darker room, I would probably recommend the bigger light.
So if I was under a bunch of dark trees out in the woods, I've never used the light before. I didn't know about that feature. Do you think the front light would be fine, or do I need to borrow this larger light?
If your face is fairly dark, I'd probably go with the larger light.
Okay.
Some of it's going to be, you know, trial and error. It also depends on how close you are to the person. You know, right now, you know, we got that 6-foot distance and everybody's trying to stay, you know, further away. So I'd recommend the bigger light there. It just has more power, more intensity. You know, if you're trying to light up a room or something along that lines, obviously going with the bigger light would make more sense. So
thank you thank you.
Oh yeah, no problem. The light that's on here is kind of, it's just, I mean, it actually works fairly well, but it doesn't disperse the light a lot. So it works well, but you know, this one here, you're going to get a much broader range of, you know, the light itself, and you're going to be able to light up not only your subject, but you know, maybe your background a little bit too.
Oh,
so
good. Thank you I'm new at all of that, so thank you.
Yeah, so I think pretty much, I think the only other thing I have on my list here is, you know, how you would frame up a shot. You know, pretty much, you know, you know what kind of looks good. Kind of go into the screen there, you know, you're going to be able to zoom. One other thing that you can't see on here that I want to mention is there's actually a leveler. It doesn't show up on the screen, but right where that plus sign is, there will actually be a leveler that will show you if your camera is level or not. So that's just one other thing. Another thing that I kind of mentioned is up in the left-hand corner there where it has the number 1 with the white box there and it says R. That shows you how many minutes are remaining on your SD card. And I guess I didn't show you guys, that I think about it here, how you would format your card. So if I, let's see here, come up the menu, there we go. You should be able to see that on your screen there. So on the side of the camera, there is a menu button. You can actually touch the screen and the menu will come up. Or like I said, there's a button on the side of the camera so that if you touch the screen, then you hit the menu button and then you just arrow down to other function. Oops, sorry. Let's see. My fingers are a little chubby. All right, so we hit other, and then we go to format media. It's going to ask you which card, and if you got 2 cards in there, you have to do both of them, but and it'll ask you if you want to format it. You're going to say yes. It's going to ask you again. You're going to hit that. It's going to kind of process here for a second or two, and then you'll get the indication that it's finished. You just hit exit, and it'll take a second here. Yeah, it still says 42 minutes. This is a 16 gig card that I have in the camera. So just to kind of give you an idea, 16 gig card on these cameras will get you about 42 minutes. If you get a 32 gig card, it'll give you, you know, roughly an hour and a half, hour and 40 minutes, something like that. You can also use 64 gig cards, but they're all fairly cheap. I would say that most of them you can get under $10, so it's, you know, not a big expense there. But just to kind of keep in mind, depending on what you're shooting, make sure that you have enough, you know, space on your card to record. So, kind of left off there with the framing, but you know, it's just one of those general things. You want to make sure that your subject's in there. You're not cutting the top of the head off. You're, you know, leaving enough rooms on the sides if you're, you know, if you're shooting a production or something like that, that you're not cutting anybody off. There is a little grid. Tom, if we come back to the other camera there, no, there we go. You can't see it on there, but basically there's a white box on the camera itself on the LCD screen that kind of gives you the area that you kind of want to keep everything in that box itself in order to make sure that it you're not cutting anything off, and then on your finished video you have everything that you wanted to include in that you know, in your video there. So
I have another question.
sure, go ahead.
I have all of them. So the other day I was shooting something for one of our educators, and I didn't know how to like look back at what I just recorded. You know what I mean? Like on a
Right.
regular camera, I can kind of go through the media to see, oh, this is what it looked like. Does that my question make sense?
Yeah, so just playback on the camera itself.
Yeah, there's
Review your footage.
oh, there we go. This one's a little bit different than what we generally, because I formatted it, won't show up, but right next to the light, where we at here? There we go. So the light switch that's on the top here, there's a little thumbnail button. It won't show up anything though, because we just formatted the card.
That's where you push.
Yeah, you press that. As you see right now, it says no data, but it does bring up this screen here. And if we had something to record, actually I can record something. That just makes too much sense. So let's see here. So as we hit record, you can see the numbers kind of, probably another good feature there to indicate. You see the red record button in the center up in the upper top there in the center, and then next to it you see all those numbers. That kind of, you know, indicates that you're actually recording, so that's an important part of the video. We're going to hit the stop, and then if I go to that thumbnail button again, you're going to get a whole screen full of your images, and then you can just press on that. The screens are touch screen.
So that little screen you pulled out from, that's what I'm using as a viewfinder anyway.
Yes.
I can
Yep.
touch that. That's when you
So,
see the screen. Okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's a touch screen. So it's
yeah,
pretty, you just have to be a little bit more forceful than like your cell phone when you're pressing on it. But yeah, that'll allow you to navigate through any of the menu systems as well.
Okay, cool.
Yep. So everything is pretty much touch screen. I think the only thing that, if you're doing some manual settings, if you're doing the white balance or any of that, you can't do that on the touch screen. You actually have to do that on the dials on the side panel here. So, but yeah, a lot of the stuff you can actually just, but in order to bring up that thumbnail, you actually have to press that thumbnail button. I don't think there's a way to get it. Yeah. I don't think you can do it just from the menu. So that thumbnail button is your key there. Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
That's all I had. How to zoom and how to review footage.
Yeah, there's actually 2 zooms on the camera. Like I said, there's one on the top. Let's see that. Oh, I think my hand is covering it. I don't know. Everything's backwards here, but it's like right in here. There's a zoom, and then there's a zoom right here on the, yeah. Kind of hard to see there, but it's right here, right down to the, it's right in the handle. You put that on, it's right where my fingers are playing there. So,
Carissa, are you guys
that's-
using the wireless mic kit for what your recordings?
So most of the recordings we're doing are done, and you probably can tell, like the educators are sending me their footage from cell phones. But the one, I've borrowed your camera for a couple of our packaged videos. We're trying to do programming. So we use the microphone and the camera set up the way like that. And it's like yesterday, I think it was yesterday, no, Monday, I did a shoot for this planter garden that we're trying to do, and it worked out really great.
Good. Good.
And this little bit of tweaks here, learning today was really helpful. So thank you.
Yeah, and I also forgot to mention on the mics, these mics have internal batteries, and they come with a little a plug here that basically just plugs into the, let's see here, Tom, if you can kind of, I don't know, show that here. There we go. On the bottom there, it just kind of plugs in, kind of like your cell phone would, and then just plugs into the wall with a regular wall outlet.
That's the mic kit that you guys have, Carissa, the same
Yes.
one?
Yeah, I don't know the brand, but it looks just like that. So
Yeah, it should be the exact same. I think we have 4 or 5 of them.
Yeah. And we do have ones that take regular batteries if, you know, that is an issue or you want to use something different. So we just don't provide the batteries. So.
Nice. What was I going to say? Do you want to just, have you had any issues with the inputs on the camera in terms of audio? Do you know how to switch those from internal microphone to the regular microphone?
no, I'm just using the microphone. I think it just, especially because we're outside a lot with shooting, so it takes away all that wind sound. So
Okay.
I don't know if I ever, in the foreseeable future, will be using the microphone.
Okay.
Yeah, there is, on these cameras, the audio levels are set up automatic, which again work fairly well. I don't really recall any issues or problems. So you don't, there's 2 knobs here. They can be thrown into a manual where you can actually adjust the audio themselves. But like I said, I wouldn't even recommend that because the audio works so well. But also on this side here, it says channel 1, which would be your wireless mic. And then down below here is channel 2, which is the mic that's actually on the front of the camera. And these have to be set. And generally speaking, you know, they don't get touched, but can't really guarantee it. There's 2 little things here. First, it says input 1 here, and this has to be on mic. They actually have to be on mic for both of them. And then on this side here, there's an L that's in parentheses, needs to be switched on that. And then the second one, there's channel 2, which is the mic that's attached to the camera. It should be set to INT, which is internal. So
Okay.
if you needed to add another mic there, we can switch 2 to the parentheses. There's a R in the parentheses, and then that you could put another wireless mic on there. So you could do 2 wireless mics, but.
Oh.
Yeah, that's kind of why I was asking. So if you, in the future, say you wanted to do conversation, or an interview, you could have 2 wireless microphones going right into that same camera on one channel and the other channel, the left and the right.
Yeah, the other one, Tom, if you just want to switch over there, there's an XLR on the side. So this first one is plugged in up top. I know it's probably a little hard. There we go. So
That's what we're
that's
doing
where
now.
your wireless is plugged in now. And then if you needed to add one, there's a second spot here. You would just have to change those settings on the bottom of the camera here on the channel 2 settings. You'd have to switch that from INT down to the R in the parentheses. And we can give, if depending on the mic setup or whatever, there might be another adapter that we would just have to have for you. So if you're going to do that, just make sure that we know that ahead of time so we can get you the, the proper adapters and whatnot. The only thing with that is it will eliminate the mic on the front of the camera. So the only audio you'll have is from the 2 wireless mics that you're using. So just kind of keep that in mind.